Hi there, my name is Suze, and I work with women to help them find balance between their internal masculine and feminine energies so that they can have lives that feel really emotionally fulfilling, full of love and connection. So, today I want to talk about the highs of life, right? And before I say anything on that, I really please ask of you before you watch this video that you go back and see the two videos I did prior to this one talking about holding the lows. It's like holding the lows part one and part two. That's really important. Please, before you watch this one about the highs, please watch the two about the lows. It will give you a really good foundational piece to then work on this part that I'm talking about right here, right now. And some of this may not, it's not going to fully create the impact or the change or transformation that you may want in your life, in your emotional body, in your emotional intelligence, your emotional availability. It's not going to create as much of an impact if you don't understand those other things first. I also said in those videos that I find that it's easier if we learn how to do this emotional work around the lows first, because the lows are where the pain comes a lot more obviously. We recognize when we're in a low and we don't want to be there, right? And that's the whole thing behind escaping, running, numbing, distracting, over busying ourselves, is to get out of the lows because they get our attention more, because we don't want to be in pain and suffering, right? So navigating that and learning how to hold the lows first is really powerful, because then you can flip it into the highs and you're not even going to be able to see the highs and how you're sabotaging the highs until you've learned to feel the experience of how you're navigating the lows first. Again, because our physical human bodies and our minds psychologically are geared to more focus on the negative, right? To more focus on the pain points and to have more fear and like need to run, right? Around the lows, the pain points, more than the highs. Okay. So if you've watched those other two videos about holding the low, then you may proceed with this video talking about the highs. Holding the highs and not sabotaging the highs. Hold on one second. I've been doing a lot of talking this morning, so I'm gonna need my water. So the highs, this is where I feel like the sabotage really comes in. I talked in the lows, talked about being careful about who you talk to and who you go to when you are in the lows. And that could, yes, be considered a form of sabotage. But for me, the energy of sabotage more, it feels more powerful and lands more clearly and authentically for me when I look at it in the realm of the highs. Because what's happening in the highs? When you're in the high, those are the things that you know you do want. Those are the pleasures. It's the happiness. It's the fulfillment. It's the abundance. We think of abundance as this positive thing. Abundance can also be the negatives, the lows. I talked about that in those videos. But most of us, when we think of abundance, you think of the positives, you think of the highs, you think of the money, you think of the love, the relationship, you think of all the highs, the things you want, right? So then it becomes, well, am I doing something? What if all that is already here, sitting right here in front of me? What if I have an opportunity sitting right here in front of me and either I don't even see it, that it could bring me to the total emotional fulfillment that I want and the abundance that I want? What if I don't even see it? Or what if it's sitting here and I consistently am sabotaging it? And this has been really big for me when I started unfolding this in my own personal life, of recognizing how much I sabotage the good stuff. The things that I actually want for a number of reasons you're afraid of, and then therefore you sabotage. And a lot of it is because, like I said in the lows, if you don't know how to hold the lows, you can't hold the highs. And that's where the sabotage comes in. You know, a very dumb, simplistic example, but will have my point hit home, I hope. People often talk about people who win the lottery, right? That could be considered a high, a really big high, and clearly abundance, right? Someone wins the lottery, and what happens? A lot of times they get this huge lump sum of money and they, for whatever reason, spend it all, blow it, whatever, and then they're broke again because they couldn't hold the high. They didn't have the tools, so they sabotaged the whole thing. You hear this with celebrities sometimes about coming into fame and money and then sabotaging the whole thing in whatever form, whether it be losing all their money, going over to drugs, whatever it may be, completely sabotaging their life as they come into fame, as they come into money, as they come into success, because they don't know how to hold the high, right? I did a written post about this in the community section of this YouTube channel talking about that, and I had some questions over there that you may appreciate if you want to do some journaling work around this, around the sabotage and the highs. The picture on that post is me and my beautiful little kitty Willow. Oftentimes she comes behind me here and she likes to make an appearance in my videos. Right now she's over there sleeping on a blankie. She loves Sherpa blankies. She has a big thing for Sherpa blankies, and she's sleeping over there. I'm curious if you guys have any pets, if you have cats or dogs or any kinds of pets. Leave me a comment below if you have a pet. I notice that I often tend to collect friends who also have cats. I do have some friends who have dogs, but the cat lovers, I seem to really attract in those kinds of people. And so I love animals. There's so much to be learned from animals. Animals are so energetically sensitive and aware, and it's beautiful to watch when you really start tapping into energies. So let me know in the comments below if you guys have any pets, what their names are, and give me some details about how much you love them. My best friend and I talk about our cats and how they're healing, how they're so healing for us, right, when we're in the lows. So back to the idea. Here's the thing, and again, this goes all back to mother wounds. This is mother wounds. Do you deny yourself pleasure is the first thing I want to ask. Do you deny yourself pleasure? And this is huge because this is a lot about shame. When I say the word pleasure, what bubbles up for you instantly? Is there any kind of shame or pulling away when I say denying yourself pleasure? What if you started focusing on giving yourself all the pleasure you could possibly ever ask for or dream or imagine? What bubbles up for you? Do you think you don't deserve it? Do you think you're not good enough for it? Do you think you haven't proven yourself worthy of it, or there's something to achieve or something to prove before you can have all the pleasure you could ever want? Or do you feel maybe if it's religious reasons, there's been some shaming, that's my background, shaming from religion that you shouldn't be going after the things that feel good, that you shouldn't be focusing on things that bring you pleasure or happiness or any kind of pleasure. Pleasure is a big energetic word that encompasses a lot of other emotions and feelings. Anything that feels good. Is there religious shaming there and limiting? So then you're denying yourself. Or maybe, like me, you have a childhood where things that you like and that bring you pleasure or happiness were taken away from you. Or maybe you have an abandonment wound, again, that taking away. Or maybe there was betrayal. You had something that made you happy, that brought you pleasure, that brought you some level of fulfillment, and that was removed out of betrayal. It always goes back to these wounds in childhood. And then how we navigated that and how we navigate it as adults. Do you deny yourself pleasure? Why? What's going on deeply? Do some digging around that. It takes a lot of strength to be able to hold the highs, and people don't think about that. I've noticed in my work with myself and with women, this has a lot to do with your nervous system as well. If you have a lot of trauma that you're healing and working through, your nervous system is going to be very limited. And the capacity of your nervous system to hold big energies, big feelings, big emotions is very limited the more trauma and difficulty you have and you hold in your body. Okay? I just looked down and saw 1010. So for someone, I know that what I just said in that moment, someone's going to need to hear that because 1010 is a very significant number sync, by the way. Your nervous system can only hold what it can hold. And if you've been consistently sabotaged and had all these horrible things happen to you emotionally, you're only going to be able to hold this little bit. So you're going to have to learn to expand to hold the highs. That's what you're actually literally doing, is you're expanding your nervous system. And I've noticed with myself and with women, 2 weeks is a big thing. 2 weeks seems to be a point where a lot of people crash. If you're going through something and like things are going really well for you, or you've been really working on having something move into a better place and you're seeing some progress, again, progress, not perfection, check out that video. You're noticing progress in something and you get excited about it. You're starting to feel a high about it. Things are working, things are working. Look out for about 2 to 3 weeks later. Do you crash and sabotage the whole thing because you can't hold the feelings of excitement in your body? This is nervous system expansion. How long can you hold the good stuff before you do something that makes the whole thing crash and burn? And are you even aware you're doing it? The feeling of overwhelm is really powerful here. I don't know if I've mentioned this in my videos before, but I know my clients know this. Overwhelm is a really great indicator with feminine energy, because if you're overwhelmed, there's this underlying assumption. If you're in overwhelm, you've received a lot of stuff. And receiving is entirely feminine energy. Entirely feminine energy is receptive, open to receive. Okay, so if you're in a state of overwhelm, now the danger is you've received so much of something that you think you can't handle any more of it. You think you can't hold it. You become overwhelmed, so you lose your stability with yourself. You lose your groundedness, and you get into this frantic, desperate place, energetically, nervous energy, excitement energy, and you have to do something to release some of it. That's the problem. You're in overwhelm, and so then subconsciously, I'm overwhelmed. I don't like how this feels. I can't find my grounding and my stability in this. So I'm going to do something to release some of this feeling of overwhelm so that I don't feel like I'm going to blow. That right there, I think, is going to sound very familiar to a lot of feminines who are doing this work. I know because I see your comments and I so appreciate and value your comments. So I can see where you are in this journey and you're self-aware enough to know exactly what I'm talking about. That's when the sabotage happens. You're holding all this excitement and this nervous energy and you feel it bubbling up inside of you, and you think you can't find your stability or your calm or your groundedness in that. So you do something to release the steam, so to speak, let a little steam out, let a little bit of those bubbles out. But then it makes the whole thing crash, often in the form of verbal communication. Often in the form of verbal communication. Because what is communication? It's getting energy out of you somewhere else. This is when I really feel like journaling is very helpful, because that is a healthy way that you can release some of this energy. Maybe moving your body. I mentioned that for dealing with the lows, but that can also be here too. Releasing some of this extra energy outside of you so that you can find that stability, the grounding, your breath again. You have to find your healthy tools. And this is where it takes a lot of radical self-trust and willingness to be alone for a little bit. I talked about learning to be quiet with dealing with the lows, right? Learning to be quiet, learning not to go to your friends necessarily, and learning to go within yourself. It's the same with the highs. Learning to pull away for a minute, slow down, go within, and take care of yourself to healthily place the energies in their proper places and settle down. You don't need to keep pushing forward and receiving all these things when you're in the state of overwhelm. You can stop. You can slow down. You can allow it to integrate. Integrate. Find your grounding. This is why I think doing the lows is so helpful to do first, because if you've already done your work over there and you know your needs, you know what makes you feel nourished and safe and stable and calm and grounded, you can plug a lot of that in here as well, of feeling of calming yourself down, soothing yourself. It's all reparenting, mother wound, emotional healing, emotional intelligence, emotional availability. So important. I hope this video helped. Please do continue dropping your comments for me to see. I really appreciate the input from all of you. Thank you so much for listening and have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.